Prime Minister saying so many things concerning, Muslims as infiltrators, or if you have two buffaloes, one will be taken away by, the other opponent. And then many other things that you must be reading in the press. So this evil side, that is, we are witnessing today. It's not just evil side, it's a monstrous dimensions, which is really endangering idea of India. And then Prime Minister saying that, most of the members of the Constituent Assembly were Sanatanis. Nobody ever looked at Constituent Assembly from the perspective of religion. Ambedkar would have been aghast to see that a Prime Minister of India looked at the members of the Constituent Assembly in terms of their immediate religious identity. Okay, so Ambedkar's, Mahatma Gandhi, I wrote an article when Udhayanidhi Maran, Udhayanidhi Stalin, he said Sanatan should be destroyed or whatever. So I quoted Gandhi. Gandhi wrote that he would use dynamite to destroy the fortress of Sanatanists. If it defends the scourge of untouchability. Ambedkar said, Sanatanism is nothing but Hitler's anti-Semitism. This is Ambedkar. So, will you take Gandhi and Ambedkar to Supreme Court? As much as the issue was dragged to Supreme Court. Okay, so point is, even Swami Vivekananda, who was helped by Tamilians more than Bengalis or anybody else to go to the World Parliament of Religions. What did he say in that great speech in Chicago on 9/11, 1893? 9/11 is celebrated as terrorist attack on America, but Swami Vivekananda delivered that speech on 9/11, 1893. And he said, sectarianism, bigotry, and horrible descendant, fanaticism, has destroyed this world. Drenched the soil of the earth with human blood. Let the bell that tolled to announce the commencement of the World Parliament of Religions be the death knell for fanaticism. Now in India, the forces which often try to appropriate Swami Vivekananda and whose thoughts influenced Dravidian movement here, this is what is written by Ramaswamy Mudaliar. They are promoting sectarianism, bigotry, and its horrible descendant fanaticism. The statements made by Prime Minister falls into this category only. See, Constitution is also given by people, and people are now making it an issue, electoral issue. Reservation would come to an end. That is how they understand Constitution. And then say it has been drafted by Ambedkar. They want to tamper with it, tinker with it. So therefore they are defending Ambedkar's vision of India. Ambedkar's vision of a egalitarian society, a equal society ensuring equality and equal opportunity. And this is what the Dravidian movement also celebrated. I wrote an article on Raja of Panagal. Yeah, I did some research and wrote it for News Minute. And I was so much educated, he introduced reservation system. And President Narayanan, after his retirement, was invited by Kalainar, to inaugurate the Dravidian Museum in Chennai. And I had to did a lot of research. The Justice Party. I read the editorials of Ramaswamy Mudaliar, who was the editor of Justice. And his editorials are put together in a book called Mirror of the Year. It was presented to me by Mr. Tiruchi Siva. He was the chairman of the parliamentary committee where I worked, a joint secretary. So I learned so much from those movements. It challenged the caste and varna system, way back, much before anything else happened in India. So here the voice of Tamil Nadu, voice of TN. Voice of TN is a voice for equality and equal opportunity. And that voice was manifested in the work of the Constitution, in the work of the Constituent Assembly, 20 years later, and in the work of Ambedkar. And now that voice is becoming a dominant voice in the midst of Sengal debate and in the midst of Ram Janmabhoomi will be locked up, bulldozed, and all kinds of nonsense. Representation of People Act of 1951, it prohibits the candidates to appeal for votes in the name of religion. The Dravidian model which is now being talked about, celebrates this idea of India. It just doesn't cater to one particular caste. It actually includes Muslims, Christians, and everybody. So therefore, here, today in New York Times, there is an article which I was reading in my hotel. It says that to be a Muslim in this country has become a liability. And then it refers to Tamil Nadu in that New York Times article. Here people do not feel that they have been, they have been excluded just because they pursued Islam or any other religion. So therefore, it is very dangerous for India. The existential crisis of India we are now confronting because of the politics of exclusion. And that politics of exclusion is rather being taken forward by none other than Prime Minister. I have no hesitation in saying that. When I come, I just don't know Tamil, so please excuse me. So it's a great honor to come here to Chennai and share some thoughts on this platform organized by the Voice of Tamil Nadu. What is it?
Voice of TN.
Voice of TN. And I must express my gratitude and thanks to Mr. Indra, Mr. Satya, and others. They came to Delhi during this election time, and we had a meeting in the Press Club of India, and it was followed up with this program. And therefore, it's a great thing that such a program is being organized, and we are discussing. The theme is very, very explosive. Theme is, whether Modi will accept defeat. Look at the situation in India. There was a time when questions were being asked after Nehru who. Nobody ever thought that Nehru would, take standards. The anticipation was never there that in the event of defeat, being faced by Nehru, he would ever, reject defeat and so on and so forth. I think for no other Prime Minister, such a question was raised. Such a question was raised as much as it's being raised now. I think yesterday Anand Sahai, a very reputed journalist, he wrote an article exactly on the same topic in The Wire. And similarly, earlier, the Pratap Bhanu Mehta had written about exactly on the same topic. So before actually discussing about this, future sordid developments or sinister developments, that Modi would not accept defeat, let me refer to Mahatma Gandhi's speech in Chennai, that time Madras. Exact date I will give you, 22nd March 1925, almost 101 years back. Gandhi was addressing a meeting in Madras that time, which is now, now we call Chennai. So when he was addressing a meeting, many questions were asked. That time some kind of elections were taking place for Legislative Council. So the question was, whom should we vote? That was the question. Or should we abstain from voting? 1925, 22 years before India became independence, and 101 years back. So Gandhi's reply was very significant. And that reply is very much rather more relevant in today's India. Polarized, facing Hindu-Muslim binaries, and most of the binaries are now being referred to by none other than Prime Minister. So Gandhi, when faced with the question, whom should he vote, his first answer was, scan the candidates. we put them under scanner, examine the candidates, and he applied few criterias. What was first criteria? Do they spin or not? During that time, spinning was the basic criteria. Do they put on khadi, clothes? Or do they put the khadi just by way of, show off, or do they put it by way of their conviction? Ask repeated questions to them. And then finally he said, the voters must ask the candidates, do they believe in Hindu-Muslim unity or not? Do they believe in the unity of Indians regardless of their religious affiliations? Do they celebrate the unity of Hindus, Muslims, Christians, Buddhists, and all other religious groupings? And if the voter would be convinced that they put on khadi, they did spinning, and above all, if they believed in the unity of Indians, regardless of their religious persuasions, cast that vote for that candidate. Now, 101 years later, what Gandhi said in Madras, that vision is being trampled upon by none other than the Prime Minister, who one day says Muslims are infiltrators, they produce more children, and then he says if a particular party comes to power, they will put the lock of Babri Masjid and Ram Temple, they will overturn the judgment of the Supreme Court. These are bizarre statements. So Gandhi asked voters to examine before voting if the candidate believed in the unity of people regardless of religions. Now the Prime Minister is really negating that great vision. And Gandhi's vision is shared by 79% of the people of India. Because recently, CSDS and Lokniti survey found out that 79% of the people surveyed by CSDS and Lokniti, they believe that India just do not belong to one particular religious, one particular community adhering to Hinduism only. It belongs to everybody. So this is a remarkable thing. So normally the politics and politicians, they should act as per the vision of the people. Now if people believe that India belongs to all, how can a Prime Minister, for that person, any political leader, would go against that vision? And the Constitution mandates that India or Indian state has never been defined by any particular religion. I mean, here in Tamil Nadu, the great voices emerged. Subramaniam Bharati, the way he tried to define nationalism in terms of a universal, all-encompassing idea. That was the idea of India. And in many other parts of the country, the same vision was articulated, and the freedom struggle brought us all together. I mean, I am from Odisha. There was Amarendra Sahu, who served in Reserve Bank of India. He is from Odisha. Many of you, I mean, here Tamil is, in Tamil language speakers spoke, so we celebrate that diversity. And that is what India is. So Gandhi, in fact, same year 1925, on one occasion, he said, I do not want India to be wholly Hindu, wholly Islamic, wholly Christian. I want India to be wholly tolerant, where all faiths would flourish and enrich what is called India. So that was the vision, and that vision should be part of the electoral politics. And it has always been. The model code of conduct prescribes that no candidate can seek for votes in the name of any religion or caste or even the symbol of religion. Representation of People Act of 1951, it prohibits the candidates to appeal for votes in the name of religion. The Dravidian model, which is now being talked about, celebrates this idea of India. It just doesn't cater to one particular caste. It actually includes Muslims, Christians, and everybody. So therefore, here, today in New York Times, there is an article which I was reading in my hotel. It says that to be a Muslim in this country has become a liability. And then it refers to Tamil Nadu in that New York Times article. Here people do not feel that they have been they have been excluded just because they pursued Islam or any other religion. So therefore, it is very dangerous for India. The existential crisis of India we are now confronting because of the politics of exclusion. And that politics of exclusion is rather being taken forward by none other than Prime Minister. I have no hesitation in saying that. And that is the reason why it is important to understand the point that during this election, saving the constitution has become a major electoral issue. Never ever, at least 2 months back, anybody thought that constitution would be a big issue in the electoral politics. I wrote minimum 3 articles so far I have written. In Maharashtra, on 14th April, on the occasion of Baba Saheb Ambedkar's birth anniversary, people were carrying copies of the constitution on their heads and marching that it has to be saved. In Uttar Pradesh, recently I was listening to an interview of Asutosh Varsne, who is teaching in Brown University. He told that ordinary people, particularly the Dalits, they feel that, in Hindi, he said, I will put that into English as well, 400 par kyun chahiye? Why do you require more than 400 seats in parliament? Can't you have power and state apparatus with 300 seats? You can as well have 300 seats. So why do you want 400 seats? And they have an apprehension that 400 seats would be used to tamper with the constitution. So this issue that constitution would be tampered with, is really actuating people to come forward and defend it. Ambedkar, on 25th November 1949, in the Constituent Assembly, in his last speech, he said, he raised 2 questions. Shall we ever defend the democratic government that this constitution would actually establish? Shall we save the constitution or lose it forever? That was in 25th November 1949. That fear is now being shared by people in the streets. In Tamil Nadu, in Uttar Pradesh, in Karnataka, in Maharashtra, in large parts, which is extraordinary. I think this agitation by the people that constitution should be saved is a good augury, good kind of a omen which will save India. We the people constituted India as a sovereign, democratic, socialist and secular republic. That we the people, just not Hindus or Muslims or Christians. We the people means regardless of religion, region, language, and so on and so forth. They gave that constitution. Now, the people are in the forefront. So therefore, howsoever a prime minister can try to divide people on the basis of religion, the fact that people are in the forefront to defend the constitution, and particularly from southern part of India, actually the leadership is provided. Because here we do not, grapple with this Hindu-Muslim binaries or divisiveness, be it Kerala, be it Tamil Nadu, and large parts of Karnataka, and so on and so forth. Therefore, the constitution has to be followed. And the question that is being raised, that whether Modi will accept defeat or not, again repeated questions are asked. Is election commission being compromised? The answer is yes. It has been compromised. I remember when I was working with President K.R. Narayanan, President of India, in 2000, the Golden Jubilee celebrations of the Election Commission took place. And he went to inaugurate it. In that inauguration speech, he referred to a survey in 2000. That survey showed that people have more faith on Election Commission than on judiciary. People had more faith on Election Commission than on the Indian Army and even on Indian government. That was in 2000, maybe because of the post-TN session effect. Okay, now 24 years later, 2000 to 2024, Election Commission's credibility is at the lowest level. The Lokniti and CSDS survey indicated that 58% of the people surveyed, they lost faith on the functioning of the Election Commission. In Anup Baranwal versus Union of India, the Supreme Court judgment, where it prescribed that election commissioner and chief election commissioners should be appointed by a committee consisting of Prime Minister, Chief Justice of India, and Leader of the Opposition of Lok Sabha. So in that judgment, the Supreme Court stated that such a committee has been recommended by the Supreme Court because the court felt that the Election Commission should not be what it called a servile commission, a commission which would be, servile to the government of India. That it was in 2023. But the Modi government changed that judgment. It said, Prime Minister, a cabinet minister recommended by Prime Minister, and Leader of the Opposition of Lok Sabha. The question is, Prime Minister and a cabinet minister recommended by Prime Minister. This means the government is in total control. So therefore, Election Commission, the apprehensions of the Supreme Court that Election Commission would be a servile commission has been affirmed by this new law enacted by Modi regime. Now, 16th May 1949, in the Constituent Assembly, when the issue of Election Commission was discussed, several members, they raised concerns and apprehensions. On 16th May 1949, Ambedkar, of all the, he was the chairman of the drafting committee, he made a very sensitive observation. He said, we have created an independent election commission, but we have not provided anything in the Constitution to prevent a government to appoint a fool, an incompetent fellow, or an unworthy person as election commissioner. He said there is nothing in the constitution which will prevent the government to appoint a fool, an incompetent fellow, or an unworthy person. And then Ambedkar said, I have an apprehension that election commission would come under the thumb of the executive. Now 49, Ambedkar himself said that in the absence of any provision in the constitution to prevent the government to appoint a commissioner who would come under the thumb of the executive. And Supreme Court in Anup Baranwala versus Union of India, he said that we want to see that election commission should not be a servile commission. So right from 49 till 2023, those apprehensions were playing in the minds of the leadership and including the judiciary. And in 2022, while hearing another writ petition, the Supreme Court said, we want election commission not to be a yes man. We want election commission to even question the Prime Minister. That where is that? Vision which was articulated by the election as early as 2022. So therefore, when election commissioner is not giving even the absolute number of voters who cast their votes, and it suddenly increases by 5%, and then Association of Democratic Reforms had to knock the doors of the Supreme Court. 2 days back, Supreme Court has ordered the Election Commission to reply, and 1 week time has been given. So for everything one has to go to Supreme Court. Superintendent's direction and control, which is part of Article 324 of the Constitution, gives huge amount of power to the Election Commission. Supreme Court itself has interpreted superintendent's direction and control is literally very expansive to take any decision by the Election Commission. So such a body, a constitutionally enshrined institution, if it is compromised, then democracy is in peril. Sibanlal Saxena, a member of the Constituent Assembly, on 15th May 1949, when Election Commission issue was being discussed, he said, today we have a Prime Minister like Jawaharlal Nehru. I'm sure that he won't appoint anybody who'd act in a partisan manner. Anybody as election commissioner who'd act in a partisan manner. But in future, there may not be a man like Jawaharlal Nehru. If that man appoints somebody to act as somebody as election commissioner, and if that fellow acts as a party person favoring the government, then he said the source of democracy itself would be endangered, and that would be end of democracy for India. Now those things are now being discussed across India. Many people say, is it the last election? And next is Pandit Hridayanath Kunjru, another member of the Constituent Assembly. He also expressed apprehensions that in spite of everything that is being provided in the Constitution, but then the operation of the Constitution or the Election Commission would be such that possibly the democracy itself will be endangered by the Election Commission if it flouts the Constitution. Now, free and fair election has been declared by the Supreme Court as part of the basic structure of the Constitution. Now, if you do not provide the actual number of people who voted, already 3 phases or 4 phases are complete. We do not have the actual numbers. Now, people have a right to know, or people have a right to information, and this is a fundamental right. And that right was employed by the Supreme Court to declare the electoral bond scheme as unconstitutional. By the same application of the same right, one can say that election commissioner is violating the basic structure of the constitution. Because free and fair election cannot be actually organized if people are in dark about how many people voted, and suddenly they increase in the context of Tamil Nadu 46 lakhs, in context of some other part of India 1 crore. Who are those one? How are the election commission doing it? Now, today morning I was listening to Prashant Bhushan's interview because he is arguing this case. So these are actually affecting the nerves of Indians. How come election, there was a time when, the first election commissioner, chief election commissioner, Sukumar Sen, he was so well regarded for conducting the first general elections, 1952, that Sudan and many European countries invited him to conduct elections. Now the questions are raised across the world about the functioning of the election commissioner, our own election commission, which 20 years back was considered as, in terms of its credibility, much higher than the judiciary. And this was stated by President K.R. Narayanan. Now the President of India is silent about it, which is very, very sad. And then Prime Minister is, repeatedly appealing people to vote on the basis of religion. In Karnataka, he said, when you press the button, you say Jai Bajrang Bali. Jai Bajrang Bali is a religious slogan, and nothing happened. And now he says Mangal Sutra should be snatched away. I mean, again a religious symbol is employed. So what is the meaning of it? But then when the constitution became a critical issue for the people to defend, certainly Amit Shah showed his love for secularism. He said, no, we will not remove the word secular. This is remarkable. So when there is a pressure from people, and Mr. Alfonso from Kerala, he was a BJP member of Rajya Sabha and minister. He's a great person in the sense, very friendly with me. I often meet him in IAS library, and we were together in one seminar on federalism. But when his turn came to speak, he said insertion of secularism in the preamble was illegitimate. It was an illegitimate insertion by Indira Gandhi. I said, sir, if you say that insertion of secularism in the preamble was an illegitimate thing, there was a constitution of Kashmir. It was drafted by Kashmir's Constituent Assembly, and most of them were Muslims. There was secularism in Kashmir Constitution. There was socialism in Kashmir Constitution. So do you think that was illegitimate? Now that Constitution has been dispensed with abrogation of Article 370? So do you think Kashmir Constituent Assembly was doing a wrong thing? Or do you think because Hindus are in majority, secularism is there, then how did the Muslim members of the Kashmir Constituent Assembly prefer secularism? So please do not link secularism with a particular religion. This is the ethos of India. This is a byproduct of the freedom struggle. And thank God Amit Shah also is loving the word secular, and he is telling that no, it won't be removed. So how did the situation has come to such a pass that even Amit Shah has expressed love? It's because people are defending the Constitution. So this is the might and majesty of we the people. This might and majesty of the Republic flows from we the people. So when people are in the forefront, nobody can do anything to India or its constitution. Jawaharlal Nehru on 13th December 1946 he moved the objectives resolution. That was the day from which the real work of the Constituent Assembly began. On 13th December, when he moved the objectives resolution, the first point was in that what should be the objectives of Indian Constitution. So the first point was that the source of power and authority will come from people. That was the first thing. Not from any god, goddess, or, sorry, not from any, what is that, Sengol? Sengol. Holistic. I mean, it's from Tamil Nadu. Please don't take any offense of it. I wrote an article.
We don't know that.
Then I wrote an article. If Sengol was used for transfer of power, nobody referred to. Nehru never referred to Rajaji. Rajaji apparently suggested Mountbatten. Rajaji, I spoke to Gopal Gandhi. I said, sir, I mean, you are such a great mind. Your brother Rajmohan Gandhi wrote a biography of Rajaji. Did he mention Sengol? He said, we don't know. Please see that book or talk to him. I did so many things. Nowhere it was there. So then I said, when Nehru saying the power flows from people, how would he embrace Sengol or for that matter anything? Okay, so therefore when power flows from people, see, constitution is also given by people and people are now making it an issue, electoral issue. Reservation would come to an end. That is how they understand constitution. And then say it has been drafted by Ambedkar, they want to tamper with it, tinker with it. So therefore they are defending Ambedkar's vision of India. Ambedkar's vision of a egalitarian society, a equal society, society ensuring equality and equal opportunity. And this is what the Dravidian movement also celebrated. I wrote an article on Raja of Panagal. Yeah, I did some research and wrote it for News Minute. And I was so much educated, he introduced reservation system. And President Narayanan, after his retirement, was invited by Kalainar, to inaugurate the Dravidian Museum in Chennai. And I had to did a lot of research. I mean, the Justice Party. I read the editorials of Ramaswamy Mudaliar, who was the editor of Justice. And his editorials are put together in a book called Mirror of the Year. It was presented to me by Mr. Tiruchi Siva. He was the chairman of the parliamentary committee where I worked, a joint secretary. So I learned so much from those movements. It challenged the caste and Varna system. Way back, much before anything else happened in India. So here the voice of Tamil Nadu, voice of TN. Voice of TN is a voice for equality and equal opportunity. And that voice was manifested in the work of the Constitution, in the work of the Constituent Assembly, 20 years later, and in the work of Ambedkar. And now that voice is becoming a dominant voice in the midst of Sengol debate and in the midst of Ram Janmabhoomi will be locked up, bulldozed, and all kinds of nonsense. So therefore, I mean, the point is that, let me just refer to another piece. You see, Jawaharlal Nehru, in Discovery of India, he wrote in 1937 elections were taking place that time for provinces, British provinces. So he was campaigning and he wrote, elections are essential part of democratic process. Those aspects like elections cannot be dispensed with. But I have a fear, he said, often elections bring out the evil side of the man. I mean, 37, he said, often elections bring about the evil side of the man. Now, if at all Prime Minister saying so many things concerning, Muslims as infiltrators, or if you have two buffaloes, one will be taken away by, the other opponent, and then many other things that you must be hearing, reading in the press. So this evil side, that is, we are witnessing today. It's not just evil side, it's a monstrous dimensions, which is really endangering idea of India. And then Prime Minister saying that, most of the members of the Constituent Assembly were Sanatanis. Nobody ever looked at Constituent Assembly from the perspective of religion. Ambedkar would have been aghast to see that a Prime Minister of India looked at the members of the Constituent Assembly in terms of their immediate religious identity. Okay, so, Ambedkar's, Mahatma Gandhi, I wrote an article when Udhayanidhi Maran, yes, Stalin, I'm sorry, Udhayanidhi Stalin, he said Sanatan should be destroyed or whatever. So I quoted Gandhi. Gandhi wrote that he would use dynamite to destroy the fortress of Sanatanists. If it defends the scourge of untouchability. Ambedkar said, Sanatanism is nothing but Hitler's anti-Semitism. This is Ambedkar. So, will you take Gandhi and Ambedkar to Supreme Court? As much as the issue was dragged to Supreme Court. Okay, so point is, so even Swami Vivekananda, who was helped by Tamilians more than Bengalis or anybody else to go to the World Parliament of Religions, what did he say in that great speech in Chicago on 9/11/1893? 9/11 is celebrated as terrorist attack on America, but Swami Vivekananda delivered that speech on 9/11/1893. And he said, sectarianism, bigotry, and horrible descendant, fanaticism, has destroyed this world, drenched the soil of the earth with human blood, let the bell that tolled to announce the commencement of the World Parliament of Religions be the death knell for fanaticism. Now in India, the forces which often try to appropriate Swami Vivekananda and whose thoughts influenced Dravidian movement here, this is what is written by Ramaswamy Mudaliar, they are promoting sectarianism, bigotry, and its horrible descendant fanaticism. The statements made by Prime Minister falls into this category only. So therefore, I think this counter-revolution which you are now witnessing through this process or the articulations of the Prime Minister, it represents a counter-revolution. That has to be met with such ideas. So to my mind, I will just conclude by saying that, again, let me refer to Swami Vivekananda's observations on elections in Europe. He wrote that article in 1897 or 1898. He said that the candidates of different political parties in Europe who were contesting elections and trying to enter senates and parliaments of Europe, they were engaging themselves in bribery, dishonesty. There was a dance of devil in the streets of Europe. And all those were taking place because of vote politics. Luckily, India was free from such vote politics. Possibly, had Vivekananda been alive, he would have said that the dance of devil is now here, enacting itself in India. And that dance of devil is manifested in the pronouncements of the top leaders who are promoting sectarianism, bigotry, and upholding its horrible descendant fanaticism. So that is the reason why there is an apprehension that somebody who is driven by sectarianism, bigotry, and its horrible descendant fanaticism, whether he would accept defeat or not. But to my mind, if people have forced Amit Shah to accept secularism, people will force any such, whosoever high or mighty, to say that here is the verdict and you have to accept it. Thank you.